For the past decade, something huge has been playing out across the Indian and Pacific Oceans, a high-stakes strategic evolution. So today, we're going to dive deep into India's really ambitious maritime vision. We'll chart its course from a regional idea to a global one, and we'll ask the big question, can all that ambition actually become reality? This quote from Admiral Tripathi, it just perfectly nails the complexity we're talking about here. See, the Indo-Pacific isn't just a patch of water. It's this incredibly dynamic arena of geopolitical currents. Nations are rivals one day and partners the next. And all of this makes these waters the absolute central stage for 21st century power.
And why does it matter so much? Well, because this massive maritime space is basically the world's economic superhighway. Get this, over 60% of all global maritime trade passes right through these waters. So keeping it safe and stable isn't just a regional issue, it's critical for the entire global economy.
All of that economic and strategic weight has turned these oceans into a new kind of global chessboard. And it's forcing nations, especially India, to completely rethink their relationship with the sea. This required a pretty fundamental shift in perspective. For the longest time, India's strategic thinking was, continental. It was always looking north, towards its land borders. The enormous ocean to its south, it was often just an afterthought. Some have called it sea blindness. But as the Indo-Pacific's importance just exploded, that had to change. India realized it couldn't afford to be blind to the seas any longer. And that big change was made official back in 2015 with a brand new doctrine. This was India's first major coordinated strategic move on this new maritime chessboard. They called it SAGAR. Now, the name itself, which means ocean in Hindi, was pretty symbolic. It's also an acronym for Security and Growth for All in the region. The whole idea was to position India as a net security provider, basically a responsible power working to keep its immediate maritime neighborhood, the Indian Ocean, stable and prosperous. SAGAR was really built on 5 key pillars. I mean, sure, it was about protecting India's own interests at sea, but it was just as much about teamwork, helping its neighbors build up their own capabilities, pushing for sustainable development, and really trying to connect the whole region. So, it's been nearly a decade. We can actually look back and see how it did. But, a vision is one thing, and actually making it happen is a whole other story. So, how did SAGAR really perform out there in the real world? Let's start with the good stuff, what went right. On paper, and in a lot of real practical ways, the policy actually delivered. Some analysts even call this the rosy picture of SAGAR's performance. And honestly, for good reason. And the successes were real. You could touch them. India set up a major information fusion center to share real-time maritime data, which helps track everything from pirates to illegal fishing. It really stepped up as a first responder in crises, delivering vaccines during the pandemic and providing relief after cyclones. And through joint naval exercises and even gifting patrol boats to smaller island nations, it was actively helping build up the region's security. Okay, but that's only half the story. After that initial burst of energy, SAGAR started running into some pretty serious and stubborn headwinds that really limited its full potential. And the biggest hurdle, you guessed it, money. This quote from a parliamentary committee is, it's blunt. They said the budget was evidently insufficient, incommensurate, and inadequate. In other words, despite this big, ambitious strategy, the funding just wasn't there to match the vision. Ambition kept outpacing the resources. And this chart really just lays it all out there. In 2023-24, the Indian Navy, the main tool for this whole policy, got the smallest share of the defense budget, just 17%. It's kind of hard to project power across a vast ocean when you're getting the smallest slice of the pie. And the problems didn't stop with the budget. You had domestic politics, friction between the central government and coastal states that stalled key projects. For instance, the super important Sagarmala Port Modernization Plan, it moved at a disappointing pace. Ultimately, SAGAR ended up being more of a vision than a funded policy. Without a clear roadmap with budgets and who's responsible for what, it really struggled to compete with more organized projects like China's Belt and Road Initiative. So, after a decade of learning lessons from both the wins and the losses, India decided it was time for an upgrade. It was time for a new chapter in its maritime story. This timeline really shows the journey. You see SAGAR launching in 2015, then these concrete steps like the Information Fusion Center. But look at the geography. By 2023, India is holding exercises in the South China Sea, way beyond its original focus. And all this leads up to the announcement of a new, much broader vision in 2025. So let's meet Mahasagar. The name literally means Great Ocean, and right there, that tells you everything you need to know about its expanded ambition. The acronym is also really important: Mutual and Holistic Advancement. That's a clear signal that this is about broader, more complete partnerships. And when you put the two side by side, the evolution is crystal clear. The scope blows up from just the Indian Ocean to the entire Indo-Pacific. The focus shifts from being mostly about security to a more holistic view that includes the economy and environment. And this is the part I find most interesting: the change in role, from net security provider to preferred security partner. Now, that isn't just clever wording, it's a huge strategic pivot. It's acknowledging that no one country can secure these vast oceans alone. It's a move from saying we'll protect you to let's work on this together. But here's the thing. A new name and a bigger vision don't just magically solve old problems. That fundamental challenge for India's maritime strategy, it's still there. We come back to this quote because it really gets to the heart of the matter. A powerful vision is fantastic, but without a concrete plan and the money to back it up, well, it's just a vision. And this brings us right to the core issue. Mahasagar, for all its grand ambition, is staring down the exact same hurdles that held Sagar back. The main challenge hasn't changed one bit. The real question is whether the approach to solving it will. So what's the path forward? Well, experts suggest a few key steps. First, you have to institutionalize the vision. Get it out of speeches and into a formal white paper, a real strategy. Second, truly adopt that holistic agenda. Make economics and environmental issues just as important as security. And third, keep deepening the security cooperation, because that's been a genuine success story. Which leaves us with this one big final question. India has laid out this powerful, ambitious vision for its role on the world's oceans. It's learned from a decade of trial and error. But can it finally close that gap between the grand vision and a funded operational reality to become a true maritime leader? The answer to that is going to shape the future of the Indo-Pacific.